Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 154, and today I'm going to be answering some more of your questions. But before I get into this Q&A, if you could do me a huge favor, click that like button. Really helps out my channel, as you know. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that really quick as well, because that makes sure that you never miss one of my newly released videos. That being said, I really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and jump into your questions, starting with the question that was really an extension of last week. So I had answered a question last week, vlog 153, where I was talking about the importance of treating your hearing loss now rather than later. And it had more to do with, would you rather treat your hearing loss now with lower grade hearing aid technology or later on in the future with higher grade hearing aid technology? And I recommended that you start as soon as possible, even if you can only afford a lower level of technology. So let me go ahead and jump into this first question. This one is from Phil Maxwell, 1858. Why is treating it now better than down the road? Is there something that deteriorates in the interim? So the reason that I'm so adamant about treating your hearing loss now rather than later on is because you're basically putting yourself through a significant amount of auditory deprivation. Now, most people, it's been up to 7 years. I think 7 years is the average from when someone identifies that they have a hearing loss to when they actually treat it. So most people are already starting behind the 8 ball on that. And when you start looking at all of the other potential negative ramifications of untreated hearing loss, you're talking about things like social isolation, depression, a higher risk of falling, and even this higher risk of cognitive decline or dementia down the road potentially. Now, there's also something to be said for individuals who have untreated hearing loss actually earn less money over the course of their time as well, as opposed to if they actually treated their hearing loss with hearing aids. And then on the other hand, all of the other positives that you get from an ability to better socially interact with other people, there's just so many benefits that it's really hard to quantify all of those. Now, the other thing that I really want to kind of like just bring to people's attention is this idea of auditory deprivation and how this might negatively impact your ability to actually process what you hear years down the road as well. Now, there's no proof that I have seen that shows for sure that if you have untreated hearing loss, that your hearing will get worse down the road. I think a lot of people assume that if you don't treat your hearing loss will get worse down the road. That is not actually the case. At least we've never identified anything from that. It is a possibility if there was research done, if they did identify that at some point. Of course, I would let you guys know about it. But there is no good reason to not treat your hearing loss. And that includes treating your hearing loss with a lower grade piece of hearing aid technology. So my recommendation stays the same. If you have hearing loss, I'd rather you treat it now rather than later. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the second question, which is from Marshall Ramirez, 6441. Hello, doctor. Does Oticon or any other company make waterproof hearing aids? I'm a big fan of water sports, but my hearing impediment interferes with my lifestyle. So Oticon and a lot of the manufacturers, the major manufacturers I should say, have IP68 rated hearing aids. So that's the ingress protection rating. The first number has to do with the amount of debris resistance. The second number has to do with the amount of water or moisture resistance for a hearing aid. And an IP rating of 6.8 is technically as high as you can possibly go. And again, Oticon and the other major brands all have, most of their hearing aids are IP68 rated. However, the one hearing aid that is the most waterproof hearing aid that I have ever tried to destroy with water is the Phonak Audeo Life hearing aids. Now, the Audeo Life comes in the Paradise lineup as well as the new Lumity lineup, and I've taken these hearing aids swimming, I've showered in them, I've gone for 3-hour trail runs in the hot Arizona desert, sweating all over them, and I cannot get these hearing aids to die. However, the receiver wires that go inside of your ear canals, those are susceptible to moisture, so it is potential that you could kill the receiver of that hearing aid, but I highly doubt that you're going to be able to kill the actual hearing aid itself. The other thing you have to watch out for when it comes to water sports, like you're alluding to, is that when you go and you do stuff in the pool or in a lake or in an ocean, you have the potential for that hearing aid to get knocked off of your ear. So you need to make sure that you have loss and damage insurance if you're going to be doing those kinds of things. And then on top of that, if your head is submerged underwater, it's not going to matter a whole lot anyway. You're not going to be able to hear anything, just like someone with normal hearing. When they put their head under the water, they're not going to hear much of anything either. So if you're just like hanging out in a hot tub, or you're chilling out, relaxing in a pool with your friends, you should be able to use almost any hearing aid for that. But if you want to make sure that you have the most waterproof hearing aid on the planet, you want to go with one of the Phonak Audeo Life devices. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our third question here. I am going to do 4 questions today, but the third question is from Chester Robinson 3580. Please help. I have a moderate hearing loss and tinnitus, but I only want to wear them when I need to, like in a meeting, a restaurant, etc. I don't have a lot of money. Is there a headphone that would work? And if not, would the Sony new hearing aids be best? Thank you, anyone that responds. Well, you got Dr. Cliff to respond. So let's kind of break this question down here a little bit. First and foremost, when you have hearing loss and tinnitus, I think of this as more of a serious type condition where you have the combination of the two. Now, I know that it's really not, but trying to treat hearing loss and tinnitus at the same time does complicate the matters a little bit. There are considerations that an audiologist would need to take into account to identify the proper course of treatment for you. That being said, the other aspect of this question is this idea of only wearing them when you want them to. Now, hearing aids work best when you use them all the time. If you end up being selective about your use with them, your performance will typically decline. You will not get the full amount of benefit. And research that has come out recently has shown that individuals who wear their hearing aids 90% of their waking hours actually have a significant reduction in the rate of cognitive decline as time progresses. And I will link that study down in the description of this video. So you do not want to be a situational user. If you are going to be a situational user, I mean, you can do it, but your performance typically will not be as good. So take that piece of advice and hopefully utilize it. The other part of this question here is this idea of not being able to afford hearing aids and questioning whether going an over-the-counter hearing aid route would be acceptable. Specifically, over-the-counter hearing aids are not intended to treat tinnitus. Now, hearing aids are one of the most effective forms of treatment when you have tinnitus. Now, if you don't know what tinnitus is, it's that ringing and buzzing that you get in your ears even in the absence of sound. And for some people, this can be debilitating. And using any type of ear-level device, amplifier, noise generator, things like that, typically will reduce your perception of the tinnitus. So if it really comes down to you not being able to afford prescription hearing aids, and more importantly, professional audiologic care when it comes to treating your hearing loss and tinnitus, of course, you should be going the over-the-counter hearing aid route. But also look for state vocational rehabilitation services and other charity organizations in your area that might be able to get you prescriptive level hearing aids with professional care that is given to you at either a significantly reduced rate or even free, I've seen. But again, in absence of that, yes, treat your hearing loss with over-the-counter hearing aids. Make a point to start saving money so you can receive professional audiologic care. And sometimes you can even take those over-the-counter hearing aids to a hearing care professional for them to try to optimize those devices even better for you. But again, if you can do anything in your power to try to get prescriptive level care from a hearing care professional, your outcome is likely going to be better, especially if you have both hearing loss and tinnitus. All right, we are on a roll. Let's get into the fourth and final question that I'm going to be answering today. Now, this one is from Boiled Over Music 9234. I had an acoustic neuroma surgically removed last year and am single-sided deaf now. Getting evaluated to see if I'm a candidate for a cochlear implant next month. Currently have cross hearing aids. Thank you for all of the information. All right, so an acoustic neuroma is basically a tumor that is growing on your auditory nerve. And when this tumor ends up growing bigger and bigger, it just deteriorates the hearing in that particular ear. Now, the reason that you would want to have one of these surgically removed is that if you let one of these acoustic neuromas or vestibular schwannomas grow without taking them out, you potentially can have them grow into your brainstem and it can kill you. So it's usually a good idea to have them removed if they are rapidly growing. Now, you might actually be able to go through monitoring to where they determine from a 6-month period or an annual period that the tumor has not grown anymore, either with identifying it through an MRI or having serial audiograms done, recurring audiograms done to see if your hearing is getting worse. But if you're like this individual, to where they felt like it was most appropriate to have this acoustic neuroma surgically removed, usually that renders the auditory nerve completely ineffective. And when you think about a cochlear implant basically has an electrode array inserted into the cochlea, and you stimulate the auditory nerve directly. But if you are basically killing the auditory nerve by removing an acoustic neuroma, you are not going to be able to have that sound travel up that auditory nerve. Now, I did read a research article, I don't know how long ago it's been, maybe 6 months to a year ago, where otologists were experimenting with installing a cochlear implant or implanting a cochlear implant on an individual who had an acoustic neuroma. And the hope is that there's still a portion of the nerve that is still alive that can send this auditory stimulation through the auditory nerve. I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head how effective that was. Typically speaking, though, when you have an acoustic neuroma, you're not a candidate for a cochlear implant anymore. So you have to be, aware that that might not be a good option for you. Now, depending on what the hearing is on your opposite ear, you could use a cross device like you mentioned that you're using right now, or you could use a bone-anchored hearing aid. Now, the concept of cross and bone-anchored devices is that, let's say that your left ear is the deaf ear that you had the acoustic neuroma removed from. What would happen is that sound would either go into the cross device and send it over to a hearing aid in your better hearing ear. So when someone's talking to you from your bad side, it overcomes the head shadow effect and you can actually hear them just in the opposite ear that you wouldn't normally be able to hear someone very well in. On the other hand, if you use a bone-anchored hearing aid and have that installed basically into your skull surgically, what would happen is that the processor that goes on the abutment there would vibrate your skull, and then your inner ear on your better hearing ear would actually pick up the vibration of sound so you could hear. So effectively, but they both do the same things. But what they don't give you is hearing inside of the ear that you had the acoustic neuroma removed from. And that's why this individual is asking if they should be getting a cochlear implant or if they're going in to be evaluated for a cochlear implant and hopefully it works. I don't want to, be Debbie Downer here, but chances are is that after you've had this surgical procedure, going and getting a cochlear implant after that is highly unlikely that you'll see any success with that. Now, is there anything really to lose? Well, maybe for the insurance company. If the insurance company is willing to pay for that, then the insurance company could be out tens of thousands of dollars if it doesn't actually work. But for you, you could just not wear the processor and you could still use a cross hearing aid or have a bone-anchored hearing aid installed on that side regardless. But, generally speaking, I think I've mentioned this 5 times now from a general standpoint, is that when you have a surgery that is going to deteriorate or sever the auditory nerve on a particular ear, it doesn't matter what you do inside of that ear anymore. You're not going to be able to transmit sound up to your brain. All right, guys, there you go. Those are the questions from last week that I wanted to cover with you. Now, if you guys have questions, please leave them down in the comment section. I will be answering these questions. I'm going to try to get through at least a couple of them each week. If they're really good questions, they have a higher likelihood of me actually answering them here on the show. Let me know what you think about how in-depth I'm going with these answers. I could probably go in a little bit further depth if you want me to. I just want to try to stay away from being too wordy on these and just get right to the point and give you guys what my professional opinion is, as well as what the research is saying on a lot of these things. So again, if you guys like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week.